I'm going to call the meeting of October 17th, 2017 to order.
The City of San Clemente respects the many people of different faiths who reside here. The City Council historically begins its session with an invocation offered by one of the religious leaders of our community with full appreciation of our shared belief that we are one nation under God. And while the city cannot endorse any particular religion, we respect the religious freedom and freedom of expression of all our citizens to pray as they feel led to pray. This evening's invocation will be given by Mark Ambrose, lead pastor with Pacific Coast Church.
Please stand for the invocation and remain standing. Mayor Pro Tem Brown will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Let's pray. Lord, before we get going tonight, I just want to pause and acknowledge your presence, acknowledge the gift we have of another day of life in the beautiful city that we live in. God, I pray that even though I know there's a lot of differing issues and differing opinions, that there'd be unity here tonight, that people would treat each other with dignity, value, and worth, because we have that in you. I pray for this council, Lord, that you would help them be unanimous in their thinking and their discernment and their decision-making that'll help and do the best for this city and the people that live in it. So we commit this time to you and ask you to do a work, please, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our great country. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Doncheck. Councilmember Ham. Here. Councilmember Swartz.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Here.
Mayor Doncheck. Mayor Ward.
Here.
First special presentation is presentation of a Red Ribbon Week proclamation to Alexis Honens, Jan Sainer, and Amber Holcomb. And they will be accompanied by representatives from St. Michael's Christian Academy and Our Savior's Lutheran School.
So today, we're going to be proclaiming this next week is Red Ribbon Week. And so before I do that, would you like to give your presentation?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. Hello. I would like to take this opportunity to invite each one of you here on the City Council, as well as the entire community, to the Red Ribbon Week Parade, which will be on Monday, October 23rd at 4:15, starting at the top of Del Mar with the pep rally to end. The national theme this year is Your Future is Key, so be drug-free. And I would like to thank some of the schools that came tonight, our St. Michael's Academy, Our Savior's Lutheran School, Our Lady of Fatima, and the team captains from San Clemente Dance Team. They are here to show their commitment to being drug-free, as well as all the schools in San Clemente, both private and public. And right now.
So, it is the goal of the Red Ribbon Week and the City of San Clemente to involve families, schools, businesses, churches, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations in this campaign, and to establish an atmosphere that supports awareness, education, and ongoing initiatives to prevent substance abuse. So I congratulate you on this campaign, and I know it's going to be a wonderful parade. It's something that the entire city gets involved with, and I think Mayor Pro Tem Brown and I will be there in the parade, and we're really excited and excited for what the kids are doing. So therefore, I, Kathy Ward, Mayor of the City of San Clemente, California, acting on behalf of the City Council and citizens of San Clemente, do hereby proclaim October 23rd through the 29th of 2017 as Red Ribbon Week. And I urge all citizens to participate in drug prevention education activities, not only during this week, but all year long, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free San Clemente.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
And before we end, we have a school that wants to do a quick little cheer.
Oh, wonderful.
Be drug-free. The future is key, so be drug-free. Don't do drugs, the user won't get far. Make good choices and you can be a star. Stand up, yell loud, yell proud, the future is
you to do that one more time, but up front?
Do it up front so you're on the camera, so that
We would
your
like-
families can see you.
Thank you.
Drug free. The future is key, so be drug free. Don't do drugs, the user won't get far. Make good choices and you can be a star. Stand up, yell loud, yell proud, the future is key, so be drug free. Be drug free. Be drug free. Be drug free.
So good luck with all your activities this next week, and we'll join you at the parade. We look forward to seeing you.
And we also have a presentation, the first this year, from Carney Campbell and Trey Russell, San Clemente High School students reporting on campus activities.
Good evening, members of San Clemente City Council. My name is Trey Russell, and I'm representing the San Clemente High School as the Associated Student Body President of the 2017 and 2018 school year. I'm excited to cover many of our upcoming and past events of the first few months of San Clemente, and I see it to be the busiest, yet the most eccentric time of the year. In recent months, we've been getting back into the swing of things, undergoing our typical back-to-school agenda, that of which includes our registration, our back-to-school spirit assembly, and the course of the beginning of all fall sports seasons. These sports include cheer, boys and girls cross country, surf team, boys water polo, girls tennis, girls golf, girls volleyball, and finally boys football. So far we've seen prosperity from our waters of the pool to the waves of the ocean, as our fall sports teams have given their best efforts in their respective leagues. Most notably, surf team continues to dominate the league, and girls volleyball took home a tournament championship at Tesoro Hills High School. Boys football is going into week 8 this week with a 7-0 record as they face off against the possibly emerging rivals, San Juan Hills. Girls volleyball has been providing us tremendous amounts of entertainment during the weekdays, as many games have gone down to the last few points in the final match. When it comes to Friday nights, a large portion of our student body, nearly 300 to 400 students, attend the varsity football games. For decades, we have devoted our nights to these events. In this current year, the atmosphere of the crowd has been redefined. Under the direction of our Loud Crowd, a student body-run club that endorses spirit in sports teams, the student section, proclaimed The Abyss, has had viral success on Instagram and other social media. Our recent Military Appreciation Night has had huge success, as the community celebrated our military and those who have given their service under the bright stadium lights. Our largest game of the year takes place next week on Friday, as it is our homecoming football game. We hope that all members of San Clemente attend, as all members of the community are welcome. In light of the homecoming season, this also means that San Clemente is holding its annual homecoming parade next Friday, October 27th, and its annual homecoming dance the following Saturday, the 28th. Our homecoming theme this year is Triton International, as we emulate the multicultural world. As always, each class has been assigned a specific role: the senior class representing America, the juniors representing the United Kingdom, the sophomores representing Spain, and the freshmen representing Italy. The floats of our annual parade have been beautifully put together, each representing their indigenous country icons and landmarks. Being a part of the senior class, I can say that you won't want to miss it, because this year we have chosen to make our float prop a 12-foot-long, 3-dimensional White House. And this is just one of our most minor details of this year's show, as we will also feature dozens of cars parading around with recognizable individuals, homecoming court royalty, and our sports teams. Shortly after the parade, the homecoming football game against Trabuco Hills High School will begin at 7, where the community will come together for barbecue, tailgating, football, and last but not least, our halftime performance. We plan on expecting a large crowd based off of last year's numbers, and this means more grills firing, more students attending, and even a bigger show put on by San Clemente High School's ASB. The annual halftime show will include performances from our San Clemente High School dance team, our pep squad, and each class. Finally, we will also be announcing the homecoming king and queen, as well as the runner-up princes and princesses. On the following night, students who have purchased tickets from all grades will be attending the homecoming dance, our biggest dance of the year. We have quite the intricate setup for the DJ, and we expect nothing short of a good time. San Clemente's student life revolves around homecoming and fall sports for the first semester. Therefore, besides these two events and college applications, of course, our trains are knee-deep in activities. We plan on continuing the fun and spirit throughout the year, incorporating full effort into every event we put on. Knowing this, I strongly encourage that you attend one of these two events, whether it's the parade or the football game. For me, and I'm sure many other families and students as well, it's a really great time. As for the future months after homecoming, San Clemente has a few weeks off and then returns back into its normal events about mid-November. That is all for San Clemente High School as a whole, from the months of August to the end of October, and we plan to keep the city updated on our events. After all, we are one town, one team, and would like to keep as many people in the loop as possible. Thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful evening.
Go ahead.
Are you guys the new high school reps? Is that?
Yes, we
Okay. Okay.
Wonderful.
What's Link Crew?
I'm going to explain that right now.
Got it.
Hi, so my name's Carney Campbell, and I'm the Link Crew president at San Clemente High School. So Link Crew is an organization that was created 2 years ago, and its main goal is to have the upperclassmen help the incoming freshmen transition into high school. So in my junior year, I was one of the very first leaders to be a part of the program. It has over 100 upperclassmen in it. And this year, I was elected the Link Crew president. So I'm going to go through some of the activities we did in August through October. So our first and biggest event is freshman orientation. In these pictures, we have all the Link Crew leaders who are in the bottom left in the blue, and in the top right, we have all the freshmen that attended orientation. At orientation, each Link Crew leader has about 20 freshmen that are assigned into their group, and they will mentor them throughout the rest of the year. We have fun activities and games which help them transition into high school, and there are tours that are led by Link Crew leaders. They're given tips and helpful information to make their transition more smooth. We don't just deal with incoming freshmen, we also deal with new students and transfer students. So we held a new student breakfast before school started so that the transfer students could feel more welcome when they came to our school. It consisted of teacher introductions, campus tour, and the new student committee members were paired with a new student so that they could mentor them as well as freshmen throughout the year. One of our most recent events was the freshman tailgate, we like to call it. So for the military appreciation night, we held a tailgate in our high school quad where the loud crowd, who are the people that are in charge of the crowds at the football games, taught some of the freshmen some of the cheers that we have during the football games. So there were nearly 100 freshmen in attendance, and we handed out spirit wear so that the freshmen were more involved in the school and felt more welcome. Some of the future plans we have are a Friendsgiving, which is run by the No One Eats Alone and the New Student Committee, which are subcommittees within Link Crew that are dedicated to specific types of students, incoming freshmen and transfer students. So at the Friendsgiving, we're planning on having like a exclusive lunch for these people so that they can feel more welcome. We're also going to have a holiday movie night, and we'll be continuing tutoring sessions, which are held twice a week for an hour, where our Link Crew leaders volunteer their time to tutor freshmen in a variety of subjects, which are held in the teachers' classrooms, and yeah, that's all.
That's a great program.
Yeah.
When we were freshmen in high school, we were on our own.
That was one of my main pushes, because when I was a freshman, I'm the oldest in my family, so I didn't really have any older siblings to guide me into high school, so I was really lost. So that's where my passion comes from for this program, because we've seen differences in freshmen. They're more attending games, there's more that know what's happening, and it's all around like a better community at the school.
No, I commend you for doing that, and you even thought to bring the loud crowd leaders to teach them the chants, which that's pretty impressive, that loud crowd.
Dude, the loud crowd
is
awesome.
impressive.
That was the greatest. I don't know who came up with that, but the loud crowd.
I came up with the name.
Yeah.
I'm one of the co-founders, but I am current president of Loud Crowds.
That's genius.
It's
So
changed everything.
next time show us some of your moves.
Yeah, next time I'll get the cheers going.
seriously, you guys should like pull up your Instagram or
Yeah,
whatever it
we
is
would
next
love
time
to.
and show the community what it is, because people are blown away by it. I know the
Yeah.
first time the mayor attended a game this year, she was amazed. And every time I bring someone to the game, they're just ecstatic that we have
Never
something like
seen that before.
So a lot of times when the freshmen are coming from middle school, they aren't really sure what Loud Crowd is, or they're nervous to participate. So when we had some of the Loud Crowd reps come out, they taught them the cheers and what we kind of do so that it was more unified when we did our cheers
Nice.
and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
I have to say, my daughter is a freshman, and she loves it. She loves feeling like a part of it. Of course, she's one of the smallest ones, so no one can really see her, but she still yells, quite a bit, so they're very voice. So thank
I
you.
hope she had some good
Yeah.
linker leaders.
She's having a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next is a toll road update, including consideration of a demand letter to resource agencies, maintenance of existing mitigation agreements, and I do have a speaker card on this item. Oh, another one.
Should we take speaker comments first before we consider the letter? Or do you want to take the letter?
Is there a
might-
staff presentation on this item, or is it simply the letter?
You want me to summarize this initiative, Mayor? This follows up on some general counsel given by the City Council a few months ago, and it was to look at the proposed toll road corridors that could come through San Clemente and look at the path of them and decide what's in their way and what ought not to be in their way. With staff's help, planning staff's help, we determined that one apparently preferred alignment for the toll road would cut through approximately 142 acres of land dedicated for conservation by the U.S. Corps of Engineers and by California and federal resource agencies. So this 142 acres is already set aside, actually on demand by the city, to mitigate the effects of urbanization related to Forester Ranch. And so we thought in looking at that it's the most incredible irony that all this land set aside to mitigate urbanization could potentially be urbanized as a freeway. It's almost funny when you think about it, except it's so tragic. So anyhow, what we concluded is that the City of San Clemente is actually a third-party beneficiary to those agreements because they were created and signed at our behest by those federal and state agencies. And so what this letter is a letter from the city to those resource agencies and to your federal and state legislative representatives to urge those agencies to stay true to those agreements and to not impair them in any way, consensually or otherwise, as they might be despoiled by a freeway through the middle of them.
I have a question. That was an excellent explanation, and it's an important letter. Who are the resource agencies for people that are listening? What's an example besides elected officials?
Yeah, thank you. The main signatory is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as I said, Councilmember Donchek, but really they were signing on behalf of the Federal Department of Fish and Wildlife, and then also a party was the California Department of Fish and Game. Both of those agencies are now called the Department of Fish and Wildlife, but what we'll do is make sure, really this is to federal senators and congressional representatives to have them lean on and remind those state and federal agencies that they ought not to tear up or otherwise impair these agreements.
Is there any other questions? No? Okay, so I'll go ahead and open it up to the public. You don't need a motion on that, just
No,
the general
we think
agreement?
staff already has direction, but we wanted to enlighten you as to the specifics.
Okay, I appreciate that. I have two speakers. First speaker is Patricia Holloway, followed by Joanna Matthews.
Glasses on here. Yes, I'd like to give you a toll road update. My name again, Patricia Holloway, and I'm the trustee representing the majority of San Clemente schools on the Capistrano Unified School Board. Trustee Amy Hanachek also represents a portion of San Clemente, including the Las Palmas Elementary and Short Cliffs Middle School, but I have all the rest. San Clemente is my hometown, and San Clemente High School is my hometown high school. And as you may know, Capistrano District incorporates 7 cities and several county unincorporated areas, ranging from up at the north, Las Flores, Ladera Ranch communities, Mission Viejo, down to San Juan Capistrano, Dana Point, and of course San Clemente in the south. Besides the county, no other agency encompasses all the toll road ideas and alignments now under consideration by the Transportation Corridor Agency. So I have news that I think most people in this room and our community will be glad to hear, and that is last week on October 11th in closed session, our Board of Trustees voted 6-1 to intervene in the City of San Clemente and the Reserve Maintenance Corporation lawsuits, challenging the TCA, the County of Orange, and Caltrans's cooperative, protective, and freeway agreements. So this means that we'll be filing to join their lawsuits to protect the health and safety of our students, foremost, our families and staff at schools and facilities throughout our entire school district. So very happy to report that to you, and more details will be coming out later on that. And then can I only talk about toll road issues under this? I have one more thing I could, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I also wanted to bring up one other thing that our board is doing in the time remaining here. We are, it's called Kitchell Site Assessments. So recently our board approved a district-wide assessment of all our existing school buildings, by a group of engineers, professional engineers and architects. So site assessments for our San Clemente schools will be released in November. And the purpose of these assessments is to determine the current condition, existing condition of our school buildings and building systems, like air conditioning and heating, which we know we need in some, many of our schools. So the Kitchell report will provide us a benchmark of performance for each building, and we will be able to prioritize projects for maintenance and repair. This will enable the district to make informed decisions regarding risks and future investments in our school properties. So we hope to be sharing these results for San Clemente High School with our ad hoc committee partners, which is Lori and Tim, in the near future, and also with the larger community, hopefully before the end of the year. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Joanna Matthews, lives here in San Clemente. Anyways, I just wanted to obviously oppose the toll road routes, basically all through South Orange County, not just San Clemente. And I do have concerns that some ideas that are considered would destroy the hiking trails. Like I went on the Forster Ridgeline hiking trek with you. And then wildlife habitats as well. I mean, we don't want to see misplaced wildlife all of a sudden on our streets. And, I know there's been issues with coyotes and other animals as well. And I'd rather have them have their own home where in the hills and, where they thrive. And then also, I know that TCA is concerned about limiting future about any sort of limiting future development would reduce their developmental impact fees that they would get from our city as well. So I really don't feel like the TCA, obviously, they want to make their money, and they're probably not happy with our city trying to preserve our open space. And I mean, like the attorney was saying too, I mean, it's really important to leave our mitigated space untouched because of the effects of urbanization. We don't want to end up environmentally going down the wrong path. We want to preserve as much as possible. And then I do, I question obviously too the TCA's projections, because nobody can predict the future, 20, 30 years out. And also, I just encourage more mass transit, some sort of programs to get people to use the trains, especially on the weekends, like going to San Diego or Los Angeles, just making it more convenient, easier to use. I have my mom's almost 70 years old, and she's her car's 15 years old, and she can, she has financial budgets, and it's like I know eventually she would like to be able to, use mass transit to get from her house in Oceanside to my house in San Clemente and feel safe and comfortable as well. So I really think that's the future, in terms of not toll roads. Toll roads won't help her one bit. I don't even think she's been on a toll road. They're too expensive. But anyways, thank you for your time, and I agree with everything that you guys are doing. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you. Our last speaker would be Mark McGuire. That's the last card I have.
Mark McGuire, resident of San Clemente. Thank you for your time. I wholeheartedly support what Scott suggested, the city attorney suggested. I worked on the Talega project and the Forster Ranch project, and I can tell you, again, talking about Route 14, which is the route we suspect is the route that they're pursuing, it would go right through the tip of Talega, right in a location where the wildlife agencies made us pull back the development and to restore that ridgeline. So they viewed that as an important piece of the overall regional landscape. And so we preserve it, and what we get for our good deed is we get the toll road, seeing an opportunity to put the toll road through. So that's absolutely true for Talega. The whole east side of Forster Ranch was preserved as an integrated whole and dedicated to the city, and that is critical. It has all sorts of drainages that are preserved by the Army Corps. It has sage scrub, both natural occurring sage scrub and restored sage scrub, both for several projects, and it's an opportunity for future projects to do additional enhancement to that. So it's absolutely a wise decision to push the legislators, to push the agencies to protect what they required us to protect in the first instance. Seems logical enough. I'm excited about the next presentation on the HOV lanes, because I think one of the things we're all anxious about is finding solutions that are less impactful and adequate to the task. So I'm looking forward to that. I did want to take 1 minute to talk about this farce of a survey that was done at an expense of $115,000 by the TCA. And it really was a waste of time, but I'm trying to take one thing out of it that maybe we can pursue, which is, if you look at the discussion in that survey, it seems to describe with some particularity that none of us have seen what the proposal would look like, this through pass through San Clemente. You've seen me previously speculating that they're trying to go through the middle of the 5. But here's the new piece of information that I gleaned from that wasteful $115,000 survey. It talks about the options of widening the 5 as potentially displacing homes and businesses along the 5, but this through pass would not displace. So again, it was a straw man survey, but it seemed to characterize the widening of the 5 as requiring displacement, but their through pass in the middle of the 5 would not require displacement. I don't know how that's physically possible unless they're proposing to elevate it all the way through town. So is that what they're proposing? Are they seriously considering that they would put this thing on stilts all the way through town? That would be insane, and we'd sure like to know that. If they've told the survey people enough information to describe it that way, they ought to tell us. Thank you.
Okay, so we're definitely all in agreement that this letter should be sent.
Yeah,
All right.
so that's all they need.
No, I know.
I'll be on the record for
I just
that.
wanted to say,
Yeah.
wrap that up. Okay, next item.
So before we go on to the next
Oh,
item, I
go
just
ahead.
want to make a comment. I'd like to thank Patricia Holler for coming and speaking as our representative of CUSU. And just as a clerical note, in the future when we have representatives, especially elected ones, give them as much opportunity as they need to speak, as long as they're speaking in official capacity. So, Patricia, I just want to offer, unless you had more information you wanted to speak about, offer that time up to you. So.
Thank you. That's all for tonight. But I plan to come back and update you on our activities in the future. So I'll make sure I plan ahead and get on your agenda.
So
Yeah, just do that. Just send us over the info, and we can get you on the agenda, and we don't have to worry about any clock going beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. So for those of you in the audience that didn't hear it who are at home, she said that in the future she'll be agendized and she'll bring us other information. So she got everything said she wanted to say this evening. So thank you.
Next is a presentation by staff of the Orange County Transportation Authority concerning extension of HOV lanes on the I-5.
Good evening, Mayor Ward and members of the council. I'm Kurt Brodke in OCTA's Planning Division. Thank you for having OCTA here today. We're here to give you an update on a planning study that's underway that's looking at improvements to I-5 between Pico and the San Diego County line. So again, we appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today about that particular project.
I didn't get to do my plug, Joanne, for Red Ribbon Week. What? I didn't get to do my plug for Red Ribbon Week.
You'll be oral communications.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Before we talk about the specific project tonight, we did want to give you an overview of some of the projects that are planned as well as underway in South Orange County. When we look at our Measure M investment countywide, most of the improvements that are underway are actually in South Orange County and specifically on Interstate 5. So there's many improvements moving forward right now. As you know, there's construction currently underway to extend the carpool lane down to Pico, and we anticipate that project will be complete next year. We've also worked with your staff to help fund a number of traffic signal synchronization projects, and most of those projects are completed now and in the maintenance mode. But there'll be opportunities to do more traffic signal synchronization projects in the future. Also on the map, credit to Caltrans, the City of San Juan, OCTA, and the other funding agencies for completing the Ortega Interchange project. And that was completed officially in 2015, although it opened traffic well before that. And then we continue to move throughout the county on looking at bikeway improvements, and we completed a district-wide bikeway study recently too. So we're taking a multimodal focus on planning projects throughout the county as well as funding those particular opportunities. So moving on to the project at hand. We're looking at improvements to I-5 really from Pico to the San Diego County line. This particular project was included in our last long-range transportation plan, and it's also included in the SCAG Regional Transportation Plan. You're probably aware that's the first step in the project development process. A project has to be included in the Regional Transportation Plan in order to move forward for state and federal funding. So this project is not part of the current Measure M program because it really wasn't envisioned when Measure M was developed. So now we're at the stage of essentially adding detail to the project. So what we are underway with is a formal study with Caltrans called a Project Study Report, and it's looking at improvements to I-5 Pico to the San Diego County line. That's about 3.5 miles long, and at some point it would connect with planned improvements in San Diego County as well. You're probably aware that San Diego has some planned capacity expansion out in their regional transportation plan. So our hope that these projects would connect at some future point in time. In terms of the project study report process, it's really an early study phase. It is not a decision document like an environmental document. It's something you do before that. And it basically defines the scope, the cost, and the schedule for the planned improvements. When we put this project in our plan, our 2014 long-range plan, there really wasn't a lot of detail on it at that point. So now we're adding detail to that particular element. Generally, these take about 2 years to complete, and I'll give you a little status as we move forward on this. On this particular map, we're showing traffic volumes in thousands on Interstate 5. Can't really see it from here, but I'll give you an idea. At the county line, it's about 133,000 today. Those are traffic numbers from Caltrans as of about 2014. So that gives you an idea kind of the traffic at the county line. You can expect that a 4-lane facility could carry around 160,000 trips a day on a daily basis. So that gives you an idea. If you extend that lane farther south, then it could accommodate capacity in that.
But just
way.
for clarification, there is no need, there's plenty of capacity today.
At the county line, yes, council member.
And what did you say for 4 lanes? 180? 160?
Yeah,
So pretty much from Palisada south, there's capacity.
Right. And then as you move towards Pico, the traffic climbs, you can see the numbers at Pico there. And then north of Pico, of course, the traffic numbers are higher as well.
Kurt,
so
I got a couple questions before we move off this subject. The first one is, you said 4 lanes. Is that 2 lanes in each direction, or is that 4 lanes each direction?
In each direction. So right now at the county line, there's 3 lanes in each direction. So we're talking about looking at another lane in each direction that would, at a minimum, be a carpool lane.
Okay.
That would essentially be the extension of the project that is currently under construction and stops at Pico.
And so this graphic here shows total number of vehicles traveling both directions per day?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. And this data is the latest from Caltrans. So what about the future? Well, the future traffic we're working on, we're not ready to present that today because we're still working on the modeling results. So we expect to have that in early 2018, and we're making refinements to that. In addition to that, as we walk you through the alternatives shortly, we'll kind of tell you how that'll work out. So in terms of what we're looking at in terms of alternatives, I mentioned the carpool lane in each direction. That shows up as a single managed lane in each direction, and I'll talk to you more about that momentarily. First and foremost, we need to have alternatives that we look at and compare to one another. So we have a transportation system management alternative or transportation demand management alternative. That is not fully defined at this point, but it's basically what can we do to avoid major impacts in construction. So before we get into looking at widening the freeway, are there other things that are possible? It could be minor ramp widenings, it could be even bus system improvements, it could be a whole host of different types of things to really manage demand and help the system. The second one is the one I mentioned, is the managed lane in each direction. There is a potential option to look at not only a carpool lane, but if there's excess capacity to sell, potentially one that is a high occupancy toll lane. So carpoolers would ride free, but then there could be a tolled component. The issue with that is, what do you do north of there as you hit the carpool lane? So those are some things we will have to explore as part of the study, and we really haven't settled on how to address that issue. But like I said, our long-range plan focuses on the carpool lane extension, and we would expect that to be a key consideration as part of this study. We also need to look at a general purpose lane, not a carpool lane in each direction as well. So that would be an alternative to a carpool lane. And then based on statute, we're also required now, as of about the last year, to look at a reversible lane in each direction. So thanks to the legislature, we actually have to do engineering work on a reversible lane. We don't believe the traffic fits that in this case, so we'll have to look at that in the traffic study. We don't expect there would be a lot of engineering analysis for that particular part of the project. So those are the alternatives that we're looking at right now. I should say that we have a project development team that's comprised of the city, Caltrans, OCTA, and the transportation corridor agencies are participating in that project development team as well. So where we're at right now is we're working on the...
Kurt, who's the representative from the city on that project team?
I believe your traffic engineer is on
Okay.
that. Yeah, Tom. Yeah. So where we're at right now is we're working through the alternatives. We do not have complete consensus on those alternatives at this point. We have been asked by Caltrans to look at 2 lanes in each direction, but we want to be careful with that because we want to make sure that the demand numbers support that. And like I said, we'll have more information on that in early 2018 as we move forward with the modeling analysis. So the schedule here gives you an idea where we're at. we are happy to come back to you probably around mid-2018 and give you an update on where we're at. The next step for us is to take those 4 alternatives and run them through our travel demand model and basically see how they perform. One of the things that would emerge out of that would be the volume to capacity ratios in the peak period, so you would know if they're over capacity with those lane additions or if there are other improvements that are necessary. That concludes my presentation. Mayor Ward, I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Yes, go ahead.
I have 2 questions for you. First of all, you mentioned you're going to be looking at potentially 2 lanes being added in each direction. So
1 lane in each direction.
Okay, I thought I heard you said that there was also possibly looking at 2 lanes, just 1 lane?
We've been asked to look at 2 lanes in each direction.
So you've been asked to look for 2 lanes in each direction. So you are going to be looking at that.
We will look at the demand numbers after we get through our single lane alternatives and see what it looks like. We'll come back and talk to you about that once we have more information on those volume to capacity ratios.
All right, and as part of that, we've been hearing a lot of rhetoric about a through lane and coming down or onto the freeway going south on the 5. But there's been very little description of what that thing would be or look like. Do you have any concept of what they're talking about as far as the through lane entering onto the 5 and where it would go?
I believe the TCA has different ideas that were presented at different workshops in 2017. What we saw at the workshops were exactly what you saw at the workshops. In terms of new information, we have not seen new information past the workshop material that was distributed at those particular meetings.
Okay, so we don't really know whether they're talking about stacking in the middle of the center divider or expanding out 2-3 lanes on either side. We don't know.
I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got a few questions. Kurt, thanks for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to come down here and talk to us about this evening. The first one is, you mentioned that on the south end of town there's 3 lanes?
Yes.
I went back and looked, there's 4 in each direction. So am I miscounting them in some way, shape, or form?
Right around the Pico interchange, there are 4 lanes.
Okay.
But at the county line, it's 3 lanes in each direction.
At the county line, it's 3 lanes in each direction.
4 lanes in each direction.
Okay, perfect. So I misspeak there. The HOV lane, now I looked at the long-range transportation plan, which you said was done in 2014. It states in there that there didn't see a need in terms of the amount of vehicle traffic that we're seeing even projected through 2040. So has something changed in that area since 2014 that would necessitate the addition of a carpool lane or the addition of a general purpose lane?
Our 2014 long-range transportation plan includes the extension of the carpool lane down to the San Diego County line. So that was already included in our plan. But like I said earlier, it was very conceptual in nature, and there was really no technical study to support that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going back now, adding detail, making sure that the right project is defined, making sure there's a need for it, and the like. In terms of the changes in traffic demand over time, it has changed.
Okay.
So, post-recession, we have seen traffic projections drop. It will vary by different areas of the county, but again, post-recession, the travel forecasts have dropped appreciably. Part of that, it cuts across housing, employment, not so much on the population side, but definitely on housing and employment numbers.
So just to clarify, has an established need, has there been an established need at this point then? Because you said I wasn't clear on your verbiage there. So there has been an established need for an additional lane, or we're going to look to see whether or not there is an established need for another lane?
Our long-range plan includes the carpool lane extension. So it was included in our prior plan. This particular effort that we're looking at now has its own purpose and need statement, and it's focused on the mobility problem in the city of San Clemente.
Okay.
So there is a purpose and need statement. It does talk about mobility needs in this part of the county. Whether that project is justified, well, that's really why we're doing the study at this point.
Okay.
And again, we'll be back talking to you about it at this point.
Now, an establishment of an HOV lane, extending it from Pico down to the county border, are you describing that currently as an addition of an HOV lane, or is that a conversion of an existing lane to an HOV lane?
It's an addition.
It's an additional lane?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and has there been any discussions or forethought in terms of eminent domain and what would be required to add an additional lane to the south end of town?
That's part of the study process,
Okay.
and something that we'll be looking at as part of the study.
Okay. My next question for you is, in that long-range transportation plan, there's two projects outlined in that didn't have much detail, as you stated. The second one was the ECR interchange project. Can you talk to that at all?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular project. I'd have to defer to city staff on that project.
So it's listed in the OCTA long-range transportation plan, but it's a Caltrans project?
It's a Caltrans project, and we've asked Caltrans to come to a future council meeting to make a presentation on that project, too.
So just to be clear, I'm not talking about the project that's going on right now. This is, I got directly from the long-range transportation plan from the OCTA. And it said that funding was going to be identified by OCTA. So none of you are aware of this plan? Okay, so I'll bring those documents next meeting. We can discuss it. Okay, my last issue is, Laura, can you bring up the slide with the map? So Kurt, like I said, thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited that OCTA wants to spend money. Nope, the other one. There you go. Spend money in the city of San Clemente in terms of transportation projects. My biggest concern, however, is where we're going to put these projects. So this is the target area that you were just referring to on the south end of town on the 5 freeway. This is between ECR at the top and then Mendocino Lane at the bottom. Magdalena, excuse me. And so if you look at that, adding one additional lane is going to be represent a significant taking. Anything more than one, I think, would be pretty obtrusive. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what the numbers are going to be that are going to necessitate some sort of residential or commercial taking, because like I said, in the LRTP, it said that there is no need for it, and they don't foresee a need through 2040. So hopefully when you come back mid-January or mid-next year, you're going to have those numbers. And if we are moving forward with this type of project, the justification for it and why it would be needed. So.
I'd also like to thank OCTA. It was this city council that asked for this project to be brought forward, and as Mr. Brockby said, it's outside of the current M2 work plan, yet they're willing to look at it as a congestion solution for South County. A couple of things, and some of this is building off of Councilmember Ham. The congestion estimates, if you could go back to your slide 3, that's using weekday data, and my view, and I think my colleagues' view, is we're going to use weekday data. We're not going to use weekend data because that's what the federal hurdle is set at. Can you speak to that and the conversation that's been going around at the initiation of TCA to look at weekend counts?
Certainly. So the project development team provides a lot of input into this technical process, which is essentially what I'm describing to you today. So one of the comments is the weekend traffic congestion within the city and how alternatives should be considered and developed that consider weekend traffic. I think the OCTA response to that is that we concur that's an issue, but if you were to essentially build a facility for weekend traffic, it could remain unused for most of the year, 255 days a year. And so, that's kind of been our discussion. Also, most of the technical analysis that we've seen, both by state and federal agencies, really focuses on weekday traffic. We really haven't seen a lot of precedent established for, focusing on weekend solutions. I think the other thing that we have said, and you'll see this in things we actually do, is that weekend traffic is better handled by special event type services versus fixed facilities, whether it be rail or bus or some other things. So when we see those types of issues that are a surge, you want to confront it with some sort of a special service typically.
Great, thank you, and I appreciate you fighting the good fight on that, because I would say if we're going to hold this piece of Orange County to a different traffic count solution than Disneyland, Anaheim, other projects around town should be held to a different standard as well around the county. The other thing I wanted to, you heard a speaker talk about this through lane modeling from or through lane project from TCA. Could you make sure that your project development team makes every effort to understand what that is? Because my understanding is with TCA, that TCA is trying to match OCTA's modeling protocol. And if they actually have something, those of us that have seen the questionnaire, it's a very specific project all of a sudden that has been put in front of the travelers in South County. But if you could really take a look at that, and when you come back to us in first quarter, include that in your presentation. And then the final thing is, when you look out into the future, it's 2040 or 2050 when you're looking at future traffic estimates?
Our travel demand model goes out through 2040.
2040.
However, Caltrans requires that we look at a 20-year horizon. So if we assume a project is open to traffic in 2030, then we have to extend our model out through 2050. So there's no single answer to that, because it can vary if you pick an opening year. But I think the short answer for you is our model goes out officially through 2040. We have methods in place to extend that if necessary.
Okay. And would it be reasonable for our city to ask for those projections by year out to 2050 so that we can understand? Because I'm really struck by the volume capacity ratios being below 1 right now in some stretches of the freeway. And it would be interesting to see where you think, not you, but where OCTA thinks the congestion is really going to spike or build.
We're happy to provide that to city staff as we finalize that. Okay. One of the first things will be just taking the existing system that we have today and seeing what that looks like in 2040. So we're almost done with that part of it, that we call the baseline analysis. And then we model the 4 alternatives that I mentioned to you.
Okay, great. Those were all my questions, and thank you again for making this effort for our city.
I would like to thank you also. As the mayor and what I hear from people, they are very comfortable with OCTA doing our planning in our county. So I appreciate hearing from you that what you do on this project development, the development team, is that you make sure that the right project is defined. That's very important to us and our people. And also that what is proposed is not overcapacity, because that would be very crucial to our city. If something was planned that was actually over capacity for the need to get through our corridor. So on behalf of our residents, I thank you for that work that you do. Appreciate it. No other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
There was one speaker.
I'm sorry. Michelle Schumacher, we do have one card. Do I have any other speakers?
Hi, good evening. Thank you all for everything you're doing to protect San Clemente regarding the toll roads. And it was very interesting to hear the OCTA presentation. I do have some questions about the presentation as far as, population estimates and what data are they using for the future estimates to project the potential needs for extra lanes on the 5 freeway in San Clemente. And that would lead into phasing. What are the capacity needs? When are they high enough to actually trigger the 5 freeway having an HOV lane? And I think that I not only speak for myself, but a group of at least 10,000 residents when I say that we do not want a managed lane in the center of the 5 freeway. We very much prefer an HOV lane, as your initial study and long-term planning suggested. So I hope that that's something that, instead of changing things to accommodate new ways of thinking or trying to tweak and define or redefine things, that maybe the OCTA stays true to the good work they've been doing in that area. But I think that that's pretty much the extent of my questions and comments. So thank you. Thank you all.
Members of the audience.
Before we move on from this item, I just, sorry, Joanne, didn't mean to cut you off there. I found on page 55 on the 2014 long-range transportation plan, it cites the El Camino Real I-5 interchange project. It's under conceptual plans. So hopefully, Kurt, next time you come, you can have more of an idea. And my biggest concern with that, as I've shared with Lori and the rest of the council previously, is the only thing that I can find that's conceptually based are those plans from 2001, which are the TCA plans, and they show an adjusted route which would have a severe impact to the South El Camino Real community. That would be a huge taking, a huge eminent domain grab. And so, as far as I'm concerned, from this point, the traffic studies don't show a need for that kind of a change. And so I'd like to just see some more details on it before we even move past the conceptual plan idea. So, but yeah, it was right here, under OCTA. So thanks again for coming. I appreciate it. I know we don't always ask the easiest questions, so thanks for sitting on the hot seat.
Members of the audience who wish to address council on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the City of San Clemente, but not separately listed on the agenda, may do so during the oral communications portion of the meeting. A total time limitation of 30 minutes is allocated for oral communications part 1, with each speaker being allotted 3 minutes in which to give his or her presentation. And I do have some cards.
Can you all exit as fast as possible? All right.
And as quiet as possible.
I'm going to call 3 names if you could come up. First name, Tom and Jerry Winters. I'm assuming that you're talking together. Roger Buteau and Pamela Glass.
Good evening. Excuse me. Madam Mayor and council members, thanks for being here tonight to listen to our little presentation. And Senator Laura, if you could maybe, oh, you did pull up the pictures. We are here to discuss the challenges that our neighborhood is facing. We live on Serena, Calle Serena in southwest San Clemente, which is considered probably one of the narrowest streets in the Southwest. And our complaint is against the person, the contractor, Brian Nickel, and Branoff Custom Homes, and the construction of 2 new homes at 214 and 216 Calle Serena. The behavioral issues that relate to our relationship with the contractor and the contractor's workers has grown seriously over the past 80 weeks, to a point to where now there are verbal confrontations with regards to what his workers do when they park in our neighborhood, and their total disregard for our privacy, for our street access, and blocking of driveways. It's gone on repeatedly for 80 weeks. The safety issues that are connected with that are numerous, not only during the day, but those at night. As you might imagine, in a narrow street, when you park a vehicle on either side, to fit a vehicle, between the two, gets a little tricky. And it's gotten very, very tricky for UPS drivers and FedEx drivers. In fact, it was like 10 days ago when there was a confrontation between the UPS driver and the workers on the site. Many times the workers will just ignore us when we request that they move their vehicles. We have to look for people of authority to intervene, to make sure that they move those vehicles. We have repeatedly engaged or tried to engage the City of San Clemente. We have spoken to numerous departments over the last 80 weeks, including departments like code compliance, engineering, planning, et cetera, to no avail and to no resolution. And we're here tonight to find out what's happening within the city structure. What can the city governments do to direct us to the right people so we can deal with this in a proper manner? We've been told by many members of the city, if they're having a problem, call the police. Well, the police aren't going to come out to our neighborhood to try to settle a little parking problem. they've got other more important things to do. So we're asking for your direction. We're asking for your intervention to direct us properly. One other statement. This same gentleman is going to begin construction on 2 new homes right across the street from us. And it's going to continue on for another 80 weeks. We've tried to engage him. He doesn't cooperate. He doesn't want to listen. All we want is resolution. We know that as residents on that street, we have to tolerate certain things when people are refurbishing their homes or building a new home. And we do tolerate, but it's gotten to a point to where there are just no more answers, and the confrontations are getting a little more serious, and we'd like to avoid that. As you can see from the pictures, kind of gives you a perspective of what we're facing, on a day-to-day basis without construction vehicles. But on top of all that, you've got cement trucks, you've got flatbed trucks, you've got cranes, you've got heavy equipment coming in and out of there. We're never warned in advance when to expect heavy traffic. Whatever happens just happens. And we think that the contractor should be held accountable to make sure that the residences of our neighborhood and other neighborhoods are respected. Anything else?
Do you have a question of Mr. Winters?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Just as another comment, this is Jeff Basham. I'm a neighbor, retired engineer, so I know what it takes to get an engine down a city street. Our street being one of the narrowest ones, it's near impossible. They've had instances where mail trucks can't get through, a little tiny mail truck, Jeep. So I'm here to tell you it's a problem.
Okay, one thing that I would like to suggest is, are you available during this week to meet, where we could meet and talk about that? Maybe I could get a staff member
Yes.
at that meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
Okay. Do you know if permits have been issued on the next property?
No, they have not been issued,
Okay.
but the consummation of his purchase of that property.
Well, I can tell by the truck parked across what was the lawn.
Yeah, well, they're going to split that into two plots and build
Okay.
2 new homes.
So I will reach out to you. I have your
Yeah,
phone
I have
number.
my number.
And I'll reach out to you probably tomorrow.
Okay.
And we'll talk about what day that we can all meet.
Very good.
Okay. Great.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You're welcome.
The best.
You know what, this is just oral communications, we don't really ask, so you can call. So Pamela, you're going to go ahead of Mr. Buteau is going to be after you.
Okay. So how do I put on the 3 minutes, or it's just? Well, so anyways, I just want to tell you, before I came to San Clemente, I didn't know about Red Ribbon Parade. And I want to tell you that these young people, the national team, the cheerleaders, all of them at San Clemente High School, Greg and Adele on their desert cart, everybody there, I just lost my Red Ribbon. Drug use is life abuse. Just say no. And I am just, that is like if I had a Hope Diamond, it's bigger than that. But what can I do? I hope it returns to me. I don't know. But I want to say that this community, San Clemente High School, there is no other team throughout the entire globe that is giving us what San Clemente High School gives us. The men, the women, the leaders, the teachers, everyone there, the families. You have accepted me with open arms, and your embrace of me is not a straitjacket, but it's a welcome that carries pillars that are eternal. Truthfulness, trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, caring, citizenship, and fairness. You know, the Roman Empire crumbled because they don't have what San Clemente High School has, and those are those 6 character pillars that count. When I saw that the south wall of the North Beach snack bar was whited out, it just broke my heart, because I saw that in 2012 that those were the keys to our well-being and safety. And I didn't realize that there had to be enamel or shellac for it to keep forever and ever and ever, which somewhere along the line it was conveyed to me by City Council in some way or form that that's what was needed, and that's why it's white-walled now. Well, this week I was walking down El Camino Real south to go to Adele's restaurant in San Clemente Inn, and I saw the Laundry Love laundromat there, and Triton, whoever did that mural, it's like phenomenal. Not that that discounts the North Beach snack bar, I want that up also, but that portrait of Triton there on the Laundry Love laundromat was bigger and better than that statue of Michelangelo with the horns. No joke, past, present, and future. Mayor Kathy Ward, I tell you, excellent. Who's ever responsible? If that was the team of the students, 2012 updated, they did good.
Thank you.
Real good.
Thank you. Lori has something for you.
Thank you. Better than poppies.
Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you.
Next speaker, our last speaker is Roger Buteau. And I hope I said that right. Did I put the accent on the wrong?
Yes, ma'am, you did. It's been pronounced in so many different ways. The family name's actually von Butthoff. We're Prussian, so we're a cursed race. We know how to start wars, we just can't finish them. We seem to lose a lot. Oh, that's okay. I'm German. It's a German joke. We do have a sense of humor. I know a lot of people don't believe that. Once again, Roger Buteau. I am a resident of Laguna Beach. I was your neighbor, but unfortunately it was about 50 years ago. I am a Marine. I served in the Marine Corps, and part of my stationing is I trained at San Mateo as well as Horno. I was briefly attached as part of my military specialty. I was briefly attached with Force Recon as well. So I know the hills of South Orange County all too well, including how many tarantulas live where. I am here tonight. I was going to speak on one of the other agenda items, and I realized it's probably more fitting. What I try to do as an environmental leader is try to come in, and this, I think, oral communication is a more appropriate time. So I am a retired general contractor. I am also a professional environmental consultant. I specialize in land use, regulatory compliance. Obviously, our forte is the non-governmental group that I founded and run, Clean Water Now. My forte is hydrology and water quality, so that's in my wheelhouse, but I do get involved in a lot of other issues. I'm not going to go into detail tonight. I know I've been asked so many times, what do I do? If those of you have received either the submission that Clean Water Now sent to you several weeks ago in support of your litigation, or you saw the press release that I issued recently, we are profoundly disturbed. I know we might get some booing, but we actually worked with some of the groups that are, I called it perversely, I'm not quite after reading the agreement, perhaps an attorney like Mr. Smith can go through the runes and decipher what the final agreements were with the Save San Ono and the TCA, but I've never seen, it's not only confounding, but it's very objectionable by some environmental leaders. So once again, I'm not only a professional analyst, I have a very robust portfolio. My first environmental job, for those of you that could find the money, I was a consultant to the building of the Condé Nast 5-star resort in Laguna Beach, the Montage Resort and Spa. That was in 2000. I was a site inspector for 2 years. And more recently, obviously, I founded Clean Water Now in 1998. And we are a watershed group. We know all of these watersheds, drainages. In your case, you have what's called subsheds and coastal streams. But believe me, Clean Water Now has more boots on the ground time than anyone else in South County, including all the NGOs that we say capitulated and took the money and ran. So we'd be very interested in meeting at some point. We are going to be producing, I offered this at the TCA meeting, I'll try to produce at least a 2 or 3 page PDF to kind of get this council up to speed on not only my forte, but the achievements. Believe me, once you read them, you may not have heard of Clean Water Now, but once you read the damage we've done, including costing Caltrans and the TCA nearly $20 million, the 73 and the 241 about 15 years ago, we make an impact. So once again, I just came here just to familiarize you with me and vice versa. We will be coming back on agenda items. We're attempting, as the press release said, we're attempting to work with all of the individuals and groups, anyone that's interested in stopping the toll road at Oso and not allowing it to go 1 millimeter, let alone 1 inch further. We gladly work with you. We look forward to working with your city and once again, any other individuals. If I could possibly have some kind of a meeting, I don't know, I was told you have an ad hoc for this particular issue, be glad to meet. I believe that is you, Lori Donchek, pardon my pronunciation, okay, and you, Mayor Ward, be happy to meet with you at some future point. In the meantime, if there are any questions now tonight, if I can answer, that's part of the reason I spoke at this niche. If I have anything that you want to ask me now, more than willing to. And once again, I'm a pretty blunt guy. That's the Marine in me, and just go ahead and fire when ready, and I'll be happy to answer any questions here now for you and for your citizens.
Do you have any questions? No? Okay.
Okay.
Call me to make an appointment. Every Monday, we generally meet. Okay, please. And you have is
available Monday afternoons?
I think I've already indicated, I sent, no offense, Councilmember Donchak, I sent you and the mayor a reply. Next Monday, I'm in meetings all day. And figures, right? It's just, But any time before then or the following Monday. This is one of the few times when a Monday is jammed. Most of the time, I'm jammed at public hearings. In fact, your attorney and I occasionally cross paths inland. I'm in other meetings, basically Tuesday through Thursdays.
Okay.
So,
thank you very much. So we'll definitely get together, and I appreciate your interest in this fight that our city has taken on and our residents.
And if I could just leave you with this, not every non-governmental group should be construed as being the type that can be bought. I have funded clean water now out of my own pocket, first as a general contractor, now as a consultant. We are not for sale. We don't do sue and settle, and as soon as we're in a room, and no offense to the attorneys in the room, but when there are more lawyers in the room than there are zealots like myself, we usually get up and leave, because then they're just carving up the carcass, as we say. So we want to assure you that we're not here to usurp you, we're not here to distract you. We are offering any assistance that we can and to your community, and once again, regionally. So thank you for indulging me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Could we have a motion to waive reading in full of all resolutions
So
and
moved.
ordinances?
Second.
Motion by Donchek, second by Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Closed session report, city attorney.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. Mayor and Council, there are three things to report. The first is that at its closed session last meeting, the City Council took action regarding an offer and compensation amendment to the city manager. That item is memorialized for final action, and the recommendation from closed session is before you tonight as item 8A. Also on the litigation matter, Villa San Clemente versus San Clemente, my firm had a prior representation of the plaintiff in that case, so I recused myself and didn't participate in that consultation, but special conflicts counsel hired by the city did. And then last but not least, it was part of a prior instruction, but the council had authorized abatement litigation against a short-term rental and treatment, a drug treatment center at 23 Via Jacobia in San Clemente. So I wanted to announce that the city refiled that action. The operator has apparently changed at that site, and we haven't been able to get the landlord's cooperation in enforcing the city's municipal code there. So today we filed an action against that property owner in Orange County Superior Court.
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion, unless council, staff, or the public request removal of an item for separate discussion and action. I have not received any requests for removal from the public.
H-I-K.
H, I, and K. Okay.
F.
Six A.
Okay, and I also was going to pull 6A. So, do we have a motion to move the balance?
So moved.
Motion by Ham, second by Swartz. All in favor? Passes 5-0.
Okay. I have two things. This concerns the minutes from the last meeting. On page 6A13, I believe it's a typo. It says that council members Doncheck and Ham voted no on the second reading of the ordinances, and I believe that should be council members Doncheck and Ham absent. So I'd like to make that correction. And then on page 6A4, under Oral Communications Part 1, Speaker Charles Mann, I'd like to include the word suggested. So it reads, Save San Clemente Open Space presented a check to the city suggested to help fund an advisory ballot measure, because it implies that this is something that's going on as opposed to an idea from a resident. And then separately, with my colleagues' consensus, I'd like to agendize this idea of an advisory ballot measure under a toll road update in the next, when it fits with city staff's timing. Because I'm also concerned about the fact that the city accepted the $5,000 check, and so the check has not been cashed. What are the plans with the check?
The city attorney and I met with Mr. Mann after that council meeting to talk in more detail. City attorney and I gave him more information, and he indicated that he was going to mull over what we had to say and some of our thoughts and comments, and that he was going to go back and consider it and see if there was something else that he could do, his group could do, and they would just give it more thought. But they are not married to any one solution at this point. So I have held on to the check. It's in the finance department, and we haven't cashed it at this point.
I might suggest you give it back to Mr. Mann at this point until there's something that it can be connected to in terms of city activity, just so there's no question about $5,000.
Well, did you just ask to have it agendized for a future discussion?
I did. Are you fine with that?
I'm supporting that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And don't cash the check until, okay, and then add the word suggested to the minutes. Thank you.
Before you move this item, Lori, you're very detailed, but the last one you missed is that you and I both voted no to adjourn the meeting as well.
Yeah,
Obviously, we weren't here
I
to be
did
able to do
notice that.
So we could amend that as well to be absent. Although I was very upset that you guys adjourned the meeting, so, I would have voted no had I been here, so.
I did pull it. I want to direct council to page 11. There was only 3 of us present. This was the ADA units, and this might be my fault. Second paragraph says, during the discussion, it was noted that staff will ensure a code amendment to update the city's accessory dwelling unit regulations is consistent with the city's policy concerning short-term lodging units. I remember a long discussion about whether these ADUs should be short-term lodging and talking about housing, and it's probably my fault. I thought, I didn't notice that it was not in the motion, and so I would ask Councilmember Brown if he's willing to clarify that, because these units that we were adding from the state were for housing. That's why the density was imposed on the city, was to provide housing. And the only reason I bring it up is one of the things I am very concerned about, especially as the mayor, is that everyone has a place to live in the city, and it's very hard for single people to find affordable housing in the city. And I think even though this was forced upon the city to add these units in single-family residential, that's the housing that it could possibly add, right? And so there was a comment made that we didn't need any more laws. I don't think that what staff asked us on that was any more laws. They were asking for clarification, and we didn't provide it. I don't think we dealt with it. So if you're willing to re-clarify that, I would like to do that. Otherwise, I would like to re-agendize that for a full council.
I would support re-agendizing for full discussion. There are some issues that I would like to have the opportunity to bring up on that item, but unfortunately I had to leave early, so I'd support that.
Okay.
Who's three up? Who's three up?
One of you two.
You and I have to decide whether to do it.
What are you asking for clarity on, Kathy?
Whether, just the fact that we are just even considering that those ADUs would be short-term lodging units when we added them for housing.
Mayor, could I just suggest, I think the takeaway was clear that the STLU ordinance is supposed to apply to all housing of any type anywhere in the city of San Clemente. And so if you said, instead of it was noted, you could say it was directed. I think that takes care of it, because, James, I think that was definitely the direction
There's
that
nothing,
we took away.
Yeah, there's nothing that would invalidate our STLU ordinance or that would create a carve-out exception
No,
in this direction.
Since you met, by the way, I checked, and that ordinance applies globally to all types of housing, but we have the note that whatever you do with these new types of housing conforms to the STLU ordinance. So we took that as direction and double and triple checking it.
Well, I understand that it conforms, but one of the things in our SDLU is stars. And those can be anywhere in the city, and these could be a star.
No, so the thing about stars that makes it unique, Mayor, is that they're in medium and high density zones only. So we didn't allow them in single family dwellings. But to squeeze in my 2 cents on this, the one thing that I would have brought forward had I been here is the concern for public safety. And so being that the area that was most heavily affected by this is what I would call the southwest area of town. That's also the location of our busiest fire station.
Oh.
And it's already on the verge of requiring an additional unit to staff that area to handle the call volume that comes through that. And so I would like to have that studied as well, besides just the traffic.
Well, this is going to come back to us, right?
Yeah, we'd have to re-agendize.
No,
It goes to planning commission and comes back up
Okay,
around.
so
So
could we-
you'll
The
have another
ordinances
bite at the
have to
apple,
come back
but
here,
we
yeah.
don't want to be San Juan Capistrano where the next week they change their votes. They've got a new
I
procedure
understand.
like that.
We provided direction. It's going to go to planning commission. You have the opportunity to comment. Planning is going to come back to us, and with the opportunity to take whatever recommendations, whatever's put together by staff, and frankly, to originate whatever we want at that point, because we are ultimately the final authority. The only question is whether or not we have to comply with the state mandates, which is obviously something we're sensitive to, but it's by no means is it a way of subverting and allowing for STLUs to be inserted in areas where they're not allowed, and by no means do we want to ignore public safety components. And these are all items we'll be able to comment in when the ordinance arrives back on our desks. So
I just want to make sure that there's enough direction for the planning commission when they have it. That was my concern with looking at these minutes.
I think it's an incredibly valid point, and I think this is also part of the record now, as well as this discussion, and so the planning commission will have an opportunity to review that, as well as this, as well as our meeting minutes, and we'll be able to have a very robust discussion about the implications on that, as well as the public safety. Okay.
Would you like to move it?
Yeah, I'll move the item with the 3 changes that were noted.
Motion by Doncheck, second by Swartz. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Item F.
Before we move on, we did get clarity on Lori's recommendation that we'll bring that advisory vote back to council at some point in the future.
Oh, yeah, that we are going to agendize that.
I just want to make sure that was.
Oh, yeah, so.
There was consensus there.
There was consensus,
Staff.
and it would live under the umbrella of a TCA toll road update at the city manager's discretion where it fits in the workload.
Right. Okay. Item F. Tim pulled that.
I'm all for the gates. I just have one thing that's always kind of bothered me driving down there. We have a sign on Pico that says reclamation plant. Can we change that to city yard or something that is maybe less? Yes, yeah, utilities. I'd be interested in whatever. I know it says reclamation plant, but it's not, I just.
It is a reclamation plant.
It is a reclamation plant, but.
And the city voted on it so that they could limit.
It's so much more, to Lori's point. I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity at some point, staff, to come up with some more glamorous way of labeling what is going on in there. Yes, thank you. Our city is a Spanish village by the sea, and reclamation plan is English, and it doesn't sound great.
Would you like a color scheme to go with it?
Well,
that can
maybe
describe what's in there?
Plante del Reclamación. I don't know what the crud you're going to call it, right? But, you know, I'm just saying there's got to be a better way to convey the purpose of the building other than reclamation plan. That's all I'm asking for.
This just came to me. How about San Clemente WD? Water Department. We have an Avenida San Clemente, so San Clemente WD. Just throwing it out there.
Abbreviated?
Yeah. Well, you can't put San Clemente Water Department across that. I mean, it'd be huge.
This is your world.
We'll look into it.
Make it pretty, not
Pick
reclamation.
something called reclamation. You know, it's a little bit like reclamation plant, and later on it's like a golf course. You know, there's gonna be like golf course. It's just there's got to be a better way to market that.
Agua de San Clemente.
Ocean view.
There we go. No.
So anyway, with that, I will pass this item as is, with the direction that we want to come up with maybe a better way to introduce all of our key operations to the rest of the city.
Thank you.
Motion by Brown. Second by Doncheck. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
I'm going to run Google Translate right now, and I'll give you your idea.
Okay, 6H.
Yeah, so this will be quick. You don't need to step up here, Tom, unless you want to. So this is just one of those things that I love calling Tom out when he's here and he does these kind of things. It's traffic calming measures or restriping plans. Lori, this one's right up your alley because it does constitute a safe route to school, so I figured you'd like it, being there's a tremendous amount of school traffic coming. With that, I think it's a great idea, and I think the residents of Saluda are going to appreciate it much. I think there'll be some growing pains, just like the roundabouts in the North ECR project, but in the end, they're going to see how fantastic it really is. So with that, I'll move the item.
Motion by Ham, second by Doncheck. All in favor? Passes 5-0.
The next one is I, and it's traffic calming measures on Riachuelo, and it's the speed humps or
Cushions.
speed cushions. And I was just going to make a recommendation that with this approval, we do the one that allows for emergency vehicle access. Is that the speed? What do they call those, Tom? Speed humps? What's the term I'm looking for? Speed cushions. So I'm going to move this item with the recommendation that we do it with speed cushions.
And that means that they're spaced apart a certain amount so that the truck can go through?
Yeah.
They're also not as tall.
That's fine. Okay, motion by Ham, second by, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Brown. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Thank you,
Planta
Tom.
de recuperación. No. That's fabulous. Come on, it doesn't get any better than that.
Is K the next item?
Item K.
Okay, so Kay, this is the one we've been talking about in closed session for a while, and I got two issues that unfortunately came to me late, and I'm going to ask that we postpone the hearing of this item until staff can come up with appropriate language. And so, Laura, if you can pull my map, I have two concerns with this. The first one is currently adjacent to this site is being used as an access point for the community to our beautiful state park trails, our San Onofre State Park trails. So if you look, I know it's not a great picture, but this is Google Earth. So in the center of the map is a location of approximately 2.5 acres, and directly coming up from the south is a fire road, and it turns into a trail system. And so if we were able to zoom in on that, which we probably could, you can see there's actually a heavily utilized trail. So my first ask is going to be that we maintain access to that. What did I say? What was the term I was?
An easement.
Thank you. Through in perpetuity for the community to access this point. And the second request is that we maintain a right of first refusal in the future in case SDG&E actually surpluses this property, so we have the ability to buy it back. It's happened in other parts of the community where they just basically went to the highest bidder and now we have a home there, as opposed to something that could be used as a public park or be reverted back to golf course use. So those are my two asks. Staff said they just need some time to work on it. If I do get support for it, I think they're reasonable asks. I think the community would be very upset to find out that we're just going to fence this off and not have access to it anymore. So,
I do have an update if the mayor and council would wish.
Yes.
So, had a little bit of chance to do some homework. So, currently the city does not have an easement for this trail. This is used by Camp Pendleton for Goat Trail when Camp Pendleton utilizes it for weed abatement. We had a staff walk the site today. We cannot find access from the lot that's being sold for that trailhead. However, if it was the will of the council to make sure that whatever access point was allowed for this trail system, I'm sure it's something that we could work into the agreement with SDG&E. Number two, with regards to the first first refusal with regards to the property. I had a chance to talk to Dwayne Cave, who's in the audience tonight representing SDG&E. I don't think that would be a problem, but what Dwayne said, and he can come up if he wants to articulate it, is that SDG&E does not sell property. So they would not be selling this property once it's acquired. Keep in mind that this property would be expanded with the substation that's there. That's part of the reason for SDG&E's want of this property. But with that being said, I'll defer to Dwayne, but if that was something that was the will of the council, again, to make sure that that was in there, even if SDG&E said they would not sell it, I don't believe that would be a problem for SDG&E to build into the sale document.
So I'm still going to maintain my 2 asks. I can show you where the trail's at, Eric, if you want to go for a site visit with me. I frequent it a lot, and it's very well maintained, so I know other people are utilizing it. So that's a huge sticking point for me. The second one is I know that maybe it wasn't SDG&E, but other utilities in the past have surplus property. And so this one, in my mind, absolutely has to give us first right of refusal, being that the energy equation is changing so much. We're going to a lot of solar, and so there would be a potential to downsize their facilities in the future. So,
Do you want to approve this with those 2 conditions to be added, or do you want to rehear this item?
so I'm okay with that as long as staff's okay with that. And so,
absolutely.
Okay, that's fine with me.
As long
Staff
as,
said they
well,
didn't have
just
time
be
to do it.
super, just be super clear on the access component, because the right of first refusal thing, I get that all day long.
Yeah.
Just be clear on the easement component.
So-
So you just want to make sure that
Show me, if I could see where the trailhead is that you're referring to, I would appreciate that greatly.
Yeah, so I can show you where the trailhead currently exists. It doesn't need to exist in that exact location.
Okay.
I just want to ensure that when you go to Vista Bahia Park in the future, you have the ability to access this trail system from that location.
Okay.
So how we go about that, if it's different than currently exists, I'm absolutely fine with that, but I want to ensure that it does exist moving forward.
Or that it's in our plan, even if it doesn't necessarily be an easement across their property, that somehow we have a plan to do that.
The access is maintained in perpetuity.
Understood.
So I'm comfortable with that if staff is comfortable with that.
So if you just want to move the item with those 2 conditions, then let's just be done with it.
Yeah, so staff's comfortable with that. Okay, so I'm going to, I guess I'll support moving the item with the 2 conditions. The first is that we have right of first refusal if SDG&E ever decides to sell or surplus property. And the second one is that we maintain some sort of access to that trail system at that location.
Understood.
Okay. Motion by Ham, second by Swartz, all in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Right, I'm working on it, okay. Okay. The public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Following closure of the public hearing, the City Council will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. This evening's public hearing is a continued public hearing to consider a request for an historic property preservation and parking waiver incentive agreement for the rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of the historic Miramar Theater into a performing arts and event center and the historic bowling alley into a culinary eatery in return for a 92 parking space waiver and parking mitigation agreement.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Amber Gregg, City Planner. So tonight we have the Miramar Bowling Alley Rehabilitation HIPAA. And HIPAA is a very long acronym for an even longer phrase, which is the Historic Property Preservation Parking Waiver Incentive Agreement, so hence the long acronym, so apologize for that. But just to orient everybody, we're talking about the Miramar Bowling Alley that's located on the southwest corner of North El Camino Real and Avenida Pico in the North Beach area. And recently, in June, the Planning Commission approved a project for the rehabilitation of the Miramar and the bowling alley, and it included the adaptive reuse of the Miramar Theater into a performance and an events center, and a reuse of the bowling alley into a eatery with an outdoor eating area. In addition to this, there was a conditional use permit for live entertainment inside the Miramar Theater only, and a full range of alcohol at both facilities, as well as a 92 historic parking waiver, but that's, a condition of approval is the execution of this HIPAA agreement. So historic parking waivers, what are they? Well, like most developments constructed prior to 1955, the Miramar had no parking associated with it, and that's because the first parking ordinance went into effect in 1956, so a lot of our historic structures do not meet parking requirements. The general plan does provide policies as well as incentives to retain our historic properties, and one of those includes the historic waivers. So the zoning ordinance does permit the waivers if public parking is in close proximity. And that's different compared to maybe our waivers that we use in downtown that has a specific length associated with it, whether it be 300 or 500 feet. For historic properties, it just has to be in close proximity. So there's no restriction in that. So as part of this project, the city actually anticipated a potential application, and we did a parking study in North Beach in August of 2016. And what that study showed us that the peak occupancy occurred on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m., and the maximum occupancy rate was 49%. So what does this mean? This means of the 384 parking spaces at peak demand, 196 of them were still available in North Beach. So that was the peak one. The second one was followed up by Saturday morning at 9 a.m., probably a lot of trail users using the parking. And then Friday evening was the third one. And this is really important because the demand for Miramar is estimated to be on Friday and Saturday, not Wednesday and Saturday mornings. So the 96 parking spaces available. What staff did is looked at the long range use of these parking spaces and what the impact would be and to see if these parking waivers were actually available in this area. And the one thing that we couldn't confirm was when we did the study, did the casino and did the Ole Hanson Beach Club have events during this time? So what staff did, just to be conservative, was we assumed that they did not have events. So by assuming that they did not, we then subtracted out, the 35 parking spaces for the Ole Hanson Beach Club out of that total, as well as the 64 parking spaces for the casino. And that ended up leaving 97 parking spaces. So it's in excess of the 92 parking spaces are being required. And it's important to know why we were conservative on this approach and that we were concerned about the neighborhood, and that even on this bare basis approach, we did not take into account the fact that parking is usually offset by mixed uses, and so you don't have this much of a high demand in there, nor did we take into account future changes in parking, because parking is so fluid, particularly with rideshare programs in the area and how things are working that way. So what are the HIPAA requirements? It's part of the conditions of approval is that this redevelopment is conditioned upon implementing the historic structures report that the City Council approved in 2013 to be executed, as well as a supplement 2017 historic analysis of the project. In 2013, the historic structures report was basically a blueprint on how to revitalize the Miramar. The building had sat vacant since 1992 and didn't look like it was going to be redeveloped anytime soon. So the city had done a proactive approach to come up with how this project could be rehabilitated and still meet the requirements of the Secretary of Interior standards. But as you can imagine, with the blighted state of the Miramar and the bowling alley, the roof was in severe decay, it was open to the elements, and a lot of additional damage had occurred in those 5 years. So we needed a supplemental report to kind of analyze what those impacts were as well. So as part of the project, all character-defining features will be maintained. All modifications are consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards, and there is no impact to the historic structures. The project does preserve the historic structures and the adaptive reuse, and in return, the city will develop parking in the future should the need arise. So we do have a couple images of what the development of the Miramar is proposed to look like. So here you have at the corner of the Miramar Event Center, as well as the Boca de la Playa elevation. And then this is along El Camino Real of the Miramar. and along the alley. And then this is the front of the bowling alley that shows the courtyard area as well as the entrance into the restaurants. And then this is another flatter one.
Go back to that last one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do this one. Yeah.
Amber, we're not really interested in where your words are. Your pictures are much
Well, that's what I was trying to get to that part. So this is the, oh, you wanted, did you want me to go up one more? I'm sorry, I apologize. This one or the next one?
No, the next one. I'm sorry. I didn't have that one there.
Okay. So yeah, that's along Pico, and so there's a ramp that now accesses that along Pico, and the window on the right, I believe, will actually have access to food as well, so a walk-up type facility, and you would enter into that way there.
What's all that stuff to the right of it? What is that?
These here?
Yeah.
That's the side of the Miramar, so those are the supports along the Miramar that you're seeing in the background.
It's showing a faux side.
Yeah.
So you can see three-dimensional kind of.
Exactly. So this is along El Camino Real, looking into the area, and it's a mix of the solid wall there as well as wrought iron, because as you can imagine, El Camino Real is a very loud street, so we're trying to damper and address the noise concerns on that side. But we didn't want to block it off completely to the pedestrians, and we wanted to make sure that it really revitalized that area and infused public activity, so that's why we have the wrought iron dispersed in between.
Are there any bulb outs or anything to kind of, that's being contemplated on the road, a little bit like, what happened in downtown where some parking was created and it kind of calmed the traffic going to that area? Is that being contemplated at all here on that road along ECR?
That one I would defer to Tom Frank, but what I will say is on Boca de la Cannon, on that one, or Boca de la Playa, I'm sorry, that there is extra right-of-way there, and they are looking at increasing that and doing a bulb out in that area on the corner there.
Oh, I see.
But as far as on the other corner, I'm not exactly sure.
And do you have the elevation on the other side of this too? Yeah, in the alley.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I don't.
Are they opening up any of those, any windows on the alley side?
There are small openings on the alley side, but not a lot of openings on the alley side.
Really?
No, because they needed some area in order to have prep space, so we couldn't do a whole lot of openings on that side.
Have we discussed with them possibly on the south end of the property line because of the difficulty? We want to make it easier for foot traffic. Have we talked to them, or has there been discussion regarding putting in a similar type of flasher crossing signal system like we have over on Del Mar and ECR? Has that
No,
been
we
talked
haven't.
about?
We haven't discussed any kind of flashing crosswalks in that area with them.
Yeah, but what's going on between the bowling alley and the theater? What is that? There seems to be something going on there.
Yeah, so that ends up being where the trash area is and where the utilities are between the kitchens back there. So currently there is no trash receptacles back there, so we needed to put them somewhere.
Would that be gated off?
It will.
Okay. Okay.
No, it doesn't have the bowling alley on this one. I apologize.
That's interesting.
Mm-mm. But on the right are the gates that you're
Yeah.
discussing, or Councilman Ham.
Interesting.
So this is going to reflect my bias that this project moved closely. If we go forward with what the staff is proposing tonight, how long is that conditional use? Is it transferable to the next owner of the or to a future owner of the property, or does it sunset if this project falls, by the wayside?
It runs with the land with this use. So once the use of the entertainment center and the restaurant ceases, then the agreement ceases.
Okay, so if the current developer sold the whole thing, the whole concept to someone else, it runs with the project?
It does.
Okay.
As long as they keep that same concept.
That same concept, okay. And if the property were to lie fallow, would this decision sunset ever?
From what I remember, on these use permits, remember we had a 2-year renewal. I think we changed it from 6 months to a year to a 2 year.
It's a 1 year.
1 year renewals,
Mhm.
right? That you just come in and renew it, and you can continue to do so for a period of time.
Yes, but in the agreement, it actually says if the use ceases, then the agreement lapses.
The use ceases.
Mhm.
But if they never pull the permits, No, I'm sorry, Lori, I didn't understand.
No, the answer you gave is the question I was asking. So I get the fact that if the use ceases, the permit sunsets, but my question was, because if they never pull because,
then they don't have access to the permits. So it's predicated on them doing all the improvements and getting the building permits and constructing it before that goes into effect.
But didn't we have something where if we approve a plan, they have the ability to every year renew that plan for up to like 5 to 10 years?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, so you could just keep renewing it. But there was a point where it would come back to us, it would be like, we're still good with this?
Yeah, because Valero was where this, I think.
Yes, so I'm sorry, I'm getting confused between the agreement versus the entitlements. So the entitlements, and I believe we have an extra long entitlement period here, where we increase it to 5 years because of the extent of it, and all the improvements that need to get done.
Thank you.
Before we hear from the public, I just want to bring up a point for discussion. I think it's been broached in the past, but I think we need to look at it more seriously now that we're, approving this tonight, is the idea of having community parking permits, stickers like we do in Calafia. I know George Gregory and a lot of other residents in North Beach have asked for it multiple times, and now that we are in a situation where we're actually ramping up in terms of the Lowlands Beach Club being completed, the casino being completed, and all these great things going on, it's time that we pay a little respect to the community members that live and reside in this area and do something very similar to what Calafia already does. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. We already have a model for it. We already do it in another part of town. And it just gives credence to the people that live there.
So you're suggesting that we direct staff to put something together and bring it back to us?
Yeah, and it's not a high priority, but in flow with this, we're going to start initiating that process. So whatever that looks like.
No problem for looking at it.
Okay, let's hear from the public. Okay. All right, first speaker is Larry Culbertson, followed by George Gregory.
Yes. Larry Culbertson from the Historical Society. The concept of giving parking waivers to businesses located on properties that do not currently have the required number of parking spaces is good for San Clemente. If we did not, those properties would either sit vacant or be replaced by much larger developments. The citizens have made it clear they do not want to see massive redevelopment in our town. We want to hold on to that small town charm which that we have, and it's largely due to the eclectic collection of buildings. The Miramar Event Center and Food Court fits in perfectly with that scenario. Having said that, it is also imperative that we do not permit too much business, so much business that parking is taken away from residents and visitors to our beaches, trails, and swimming pools. Our city staff has studied the parking availability around the Miramar, the casino, and the beach club in great detail, and they assure us that there's adequate parking to grant the 92 waivers. The Historic Property Preservation Parking Waiver Incentive Agreement requires the city to manage and/or develop additional parking when and if it's needed. The Coastal Commission will be requiring a plan for transportation demand management to reduce vehicle trips and parking demand. They will also be requiring extensive monitoring of the parking availability, including consideration of impacts to residential use of on-street parking. There appears to be plenty of safeguards in place to protect us from any adverse effects that granting these waivers might produce. I believe that the vast majority of San Clementeans support the project and the granting of the waivers. Thank you.
George Gregory.
George Gregory, North Beach, property owner, business owner, criminal. Anyways, maybe we can make it more illegal for work trucks to be on the street and we get more parking. Anyways, Mr. Ham, thank you for considering our neighborhood. I thought it was kind of strange that you're really worried about an extra lane in south part of town because of the encroachment on your neighborhood where we can allow this to happen. Obviously, 92 parking waivers is not enough. That is not enough for this huge development. 400 people at the concert hall, plus the employees, the equipment, the trucks, the roadies. Now you put in 7 or 5, or is it 5 restaurants with all the employees, the delivery trucks, the patrons. We're talking 700 to 800 people. Do we really expect 92 cars with 800 people to arrive at North Beach? I don't think so. We talked about the maximum or the percentage of parking that was left. The problem is when you were observing the parking, did you take into consideration how many people are avoiding the fees parking in the neighborhood of North Beach? Because we didn't do that, when there is stickers needed, those people who now avoid the fees at the parking lot are going to be in the parking lot. So that's kind of a jaded number. We're off by at least 25%, if not 50% on all these numbers. 92 spaces will never make it. Mr. Brown, how'd you like everybody have to pay to go to the grocery store in that parking lot? They're going to be parked in front of your house. This is not going to be a place for church socials. This is an event center. This could be everything from grunge music to rock and roll to, you know, Charles Manson in his concert. Who knows? So the thing is this is not a wedding or those kind of events there, and I'm very concerned about those kind of events. And I would really rather see this place toned down a little bit. There's not much transparency here, and there's been some jaded notices, if you ask me. The Coastal Commission was just informed there'd be 7 restaurants, where the City Council is informed there'll be 5 restaurants. Which is it? Is it 10? I don't really know. The idea of giving us parking stickers, I think is going to happen. But what bothers me is Mr. and Mrs. Foster Ranch are going to have to pay for that enforcement, are going to have to help to pay for those stickers, all for this fella's benefit, all for this business plan. You know, I have a business plan too. Boy, would I love a waiver. What's going to happen if Itchy Berries needs a couple waivers? Is there going to be any waivers left? El Camino Real is the problem. It's not really so much the Miramar, it's El Camino Real. It's just ugly. It is ugly. Why is it so ugly? Because it's so restrictive to build in this town. Anybody just trying to build one restaurant would run into huge, huge problems. We're talking 7. That's a little greedy. A whole lot greedy, if you ask me. Mrs. Ward, have we worked on anything to fix Del Mar in all of its parking problems and all of those problems there too? Are we just going to build another Del Mar? Seems kind of mean. Why do we create these problems with no plan to solve them? We haven't had a discussion with the DBA and the council to fix these problems. I really hate seeing council give the DBA money and the DBA give back candidates monies for their campaigns. It really bugs the crud out of me. So this really needs to be thought about a little bit more. I feel like the fix is in and I'm just screaming in the wind. But I've got good points all the way around.
Okay, thank you, George.
Thank you.
I'll get some of your questions answered. Last speaker we have is Wayne Eggleston.
Good evening.
Cold, or did you do something?
Cold. Ole Hansen's vision can become a reality this evening. Back in the 1920s, Ole Hansen said that North Beach would become the entertainment hub of San Clemente. And so tonight, it can become a reality. Look at all of the assets that we have in North Beach right now. We have the beach trail, we have the Metrolink, we have the beach, we have 3 historic, wonderful buildings down there, and now we have, just up the street, the Outlet Center and the multi-million-dollar homes. This is the time now to finally do something with North Beach. North Beach can become the entertainment hub of San Clemente. So I would urge you tonight to vote on this and to vote in a very positive way, because this will really be a landmark decision this evening. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Jim Holloway.
So you can't appear here at the same time your wife is here?
No. Carefully coordinate that. Is it? Sure? Okay. Not to speak on the application, because I think Amber did a great job and there's been enough discussion about that, but to address Councilman Ham's direction regarding parking management, the numbers show that there's more than enough parking now and into the future, clearly, but that doesn't mean there's not a parking management problem, which I think you've started to touch on. one parking management technique that the staff may want to consider based on the council's direction is something called distance-based parking or price-based parking demand. And what that means is, well, let me back up. When the parking meters were put in way back when, they stopped putting the parking meters when you couldn't see the ocean anymore. That's why when you go around the corner at Boca de Playa, there's no parking meters there. That's why people that don't want to pay for parking park there. So if you took the parking meters off of Desheka in front of Ichibiri's, which is the furthest from the beach, and you put them around that corner and you charge a big fee, all of a sudden you would switch the people that want to do free parking from encroaching into the neighborhood to right in the middle of the commercial parking area. So you may want to think about that management technique as you direct staff to look further into management techniques for North Beach. There's plenty of numbers. I've done surveys Christmas week, Memorial Day weekend, and 4th of July, and the most we ever got was 52% occupancy. It's astounding. Part of it is a free shuttle, but you got a new bikeway there, you got the beach trail with pedestrians, you got the bus line coming in, you got free shuttle coming in, and you got Lyft. There's a lot of reasons why the parking demand isn't increasing. Doesn't mean you shouldn't manage parking to keep it out of the residential area zone.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Amber, can you come back up? A couple of questions that I heard. Is it true that the Coastal Commission will be looking at parking and monitoring that, and would that include the residential areas adjacent to the public domain?
So the Coastal Commission looks at the project just the way that the Planning Commission would look at the project, and something else that you had pointed out on that with the Coastal Commission and that Mr. Gregory had brought up was the number of restaurants in there, and what we're really analyzing is the number of parking spaces required. So regardless of how many restaurants are in there, they're limited to a certain amount of seats that they can have, so that's an important distinction.
Okay, so these aren't regular restaurants where they're all sharing the wait staff and who's working on the tables and bringing food to the tables. This is different, where the restaurants are kitchens, and they might have staff in there, but would they be using communal staff in the eating area at all?
From the way it's been explained to me is no, each one has an individual kitchen with individual staff, and it's a walk-up bar scenario where you get your food, and there are 50 seats inside, or you can take it out to the courtyard area. So that's how this is planning to be functioned. And if you've ever been to the Anaheim Packing House, only because I know it's been very popular, it functions the exact same way. This would just be on a much smaller scale, to be very clear.
Okay. And on the Miramar, I understand it's going to be an event center, and Councilmember Brown brought this up. There's no windows in the Miramar, is that correct?
There's not, actually. The Miramar's constructed out of solid blocks, so it's wonderful to keep noise inside of it and not get noise out of it. But there are doors that go onto the patio, and they're conditioned that whatever doors they have are to remain closed during the live entertainment, so noise does not escape.
And those are probably automatic closing doors? I think we normally look at that, don't we?
I don't know if they're automatically closing. I can defer to the applicant.
I mean, like, not powered, but they would just automatically swing shut. So if someone opened it, they're not going to be able to prop it open.
They're conditioned to leave them closed.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. That's probably too much detail. Hold on one second. So one of the concerns of Mr. Gregory of concerts and things like that, the Miramar's, it's solid block. So one of the things that was not an issue with this was because all the concerts are inside.
That's correct.
So they don't have a conditional use permit for outside.
That's correct. There's no outdoor noise outside, or I should say amplified sound outside.
Okay. And I think that's it. The only other thing that I would say is there has been a lot of discussions with the DBA, so I'm just going to answer that real quick. On parking, and the council added the shuttle this year, and so we are doing a lot of things to try to deal with parking throughout the commercial areas and entertainment areas of San Clemente. So, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just got a question that's in the area but not on the specific topic, and that's the reverse parking that we have on East Pico. West Pico. West Pico. Sorry, West Pico. I've used it a few times, and it's scary, because you're backing blind around, turning around, backing into traffic to get into it. So I just wonder if we're going to take another look at that maybe when we're doing this project.
That would have to fall under Public Works, not under this project.
Right. Not under discussion. Chris, do you have a question?
Yeah, first off, I love the back and parking, Steve, so I'll fight you on that one. I think it's
Of course
great.
you do. You should put a roundabout right in the middle of it.
Now you're talking my language. I just want to bring up a point that George did mention, which was the Echeberry restaurant. So this is one of the concerns I had with Amber when we were supposed to hear this 2 months ago. And so they already do have parking waivers, and those remain active, so they do.
That's
continue
correct.
those.
They're still active, and they were open at the time of the survey also.
Perfect. With that, if there's no other questions, I'll make a recommendation, but I want to just make sure there was no other discussion on my parking permit idea, because I'm still going to push for that, so.
Well, one of the things that I want to ask, because this is just a good time to ask it, on 7A, it brings up the different areas where there might be parking, and one of them is the MO2 channel across the street. There's a chance to talk to one of our supervisor about acquiring a lease on that would be advantageous to us. And so I just want to know if the council wants to pursue that or not.
Well, we looked at that. We looked at that extensively, and there was a problem. There were all sorts of problems that surfaced in that review. This is 4 or 5 years ago.
The county has always said that their expectation is that we pay fair market value for, as if it was regular dirt when it's a covered channel that you can't build on, but they want the same, value.
So I think that maybe this is a conversation that is good to have at some point, but when we looked at it, it seemed like out of all of the schemes, that one was a pretty desperate measure as opposed to a whole series of other things. I think one of the things that that is an intriguing point is that with the advent of the trolley on key weekends, as well as the establishment of more Lyft services in our community. For example, the business case for Lyft and for Uber may have been strained a few years ago when there was maybe 4 or 5 cars operating on a given night on a weekend. By having a guaranteed usage base, you just get more cars out there, there's more availability. The pricing drops because of the availability, which means that more people will use it. And then we also have the ability to use that in times of peak demand. So do we give, for example, weddings that we have at the Ole Hansen Beach Club, do we give them an Uber credit to use to be able to address parking problems? Do we employ that also for events at the center there? Do we have a subsidized Uber fare? To me, that would be a far more progressive solution than shovel spade parking spot that's empty, 90% of the time. And so, I think there's different ways to take down this problem, and I think we now have a lot of tools at our disposal. For example, how much does it cost to just run the trolley an extra few days on those peak demand periods to help keep that circulating? So, these waivers, I know these have been contested in the past. I know we've had a lot of things going on here, but we're all of a sudden been dealt a lot of different solutions now that frankly have addressed things in a way that I never thought could be addressed in our town. So I'm encouraged by the future. I'm also by that. I'm also supportive of the waivers primarily because I think these other solutions presented themselves, and we have the way to engineer around these roadblocks now.
So you're saying that you don't want us to pursue even getting the ability to use that lot? Because they're willing to have a conversation now, and that doesn't mean that we're going to build.
Well, we had a whole multi-year conversation. Are you talking about the county, the MOU2 channel?
They're willing to talk about it now.
I
just need direction from the city that I can talk about it with them. It's not saying we're going to build it.
Who at the county?
Our supervisor is willing to look into it.
I feel pretty strongly that that's a tool in the toolbox that we can look at down the road. Right now, there's so much that's hypothetical about this, but in terms of bang for the buck, there's the traffic management ideas, the idea that we've got multimodal solutions.
I just wanted clarification. I got it.
Yeah.
I also think that we could also look into some grant funding to build a parking structure once we go down that route.
That was also.
Did you just say structure? Yeah.
But it was also
facility.
There was also we also had an $8 million fund that we were looking at using for the MO2 channel, And unless the supervisor has some added power, she can't give it to us for less than fair market value. So no matter how we end up.
And what I want to do with the MO2 channel, Mayor, is I want to put a bicycle trail in there from the high school down to the beach.
That
And just
I
kind of
do
blow
know
this
about.
open.
It's just,
Kathy,
it still
Can you make that
requires
happen before
use.
next year? Because that would be awesome.
No, that's on you.
Kathy, that being said, you can speak with the supervisor about literally anything.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
I
say.
mean, it's,
You have our
we can't preclude you from having a
I don't need,
conversation with the
I've heard
supervisor.
it, I heard
Okay.
it. Thank you very much.
I was going to support the mayor. If she wants to talk to Lisa Bartlett about it, let her do it. We can't tell her not to.
In the meantime.
I'm not telling her.
In the
Are you making a
meantime,
motion?
I'm going to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 17-27 entitled Resolution of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California approving historic property preservation and parking waiver incentive agreement for the property located at 1700 North El Camino Real, and that we direct staff to initiate a parking permit sticker program for the North Beach area, which would encompass Las Bolas, Florencia to Sacramento, and don't forget Calle Colina.
I second.
Okay, motion by Ham, second by Swartz, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. And I want to say thank you very much to everyone in the community who has worked really hard for this. I know Jim Holloway and Wayne Eggleston have, and also the applicant. This is something that the people have wanted for a long time, and one of the things that we heard a lot was that the Miramar needed to be revitalized, and I believe we know from the parking waivers that we gave the casino that it works, and it was successful then, so I really hope that this is successful also. So, thank you, everyone.
Can I get reservations for the restaurant and,
Okay. Report from the city attorney concerning a salary adjustment for the city manager.
Mayor, would you like me to speak to this item since it involves?
Yes, I would like you to.
Great, thanks. I was asked by the council to prepare this because the city managers that impacted by it. The city council conducted and concluded a positive evaluation of its city manager, Mr. Maxinoff, in closed session over your last two meetings. Last year, the city council made the decision to include the city manager in the city's matrix of compensation so that rather than being broken out as compensated separately, he would be part of those steps and opportunities as are the rank and file employees. Having concluded that positive evaluation, it was determined that the city manager's classification should move from step D to step E on the city's range placement table. In doing this, also, the city council asked to look at comparable salaries and compensation packages for city managers in the area, and had presented to it information from the League of California Cities surveying those relevant managerial positions to calibrate this movement. And so to bring that to effect, the council asked to do that in open session. And so this report is presented to you, accompanied by a resolution making it official. Approves a salary adjustment of City Manager James Maxinoff on those steps as described in the matrix referenced earlier.
Do we have any cards?
No.
Okay.
No.
With that, I move that we adopt resolution number 1735 entitled Resolution of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California approving salary adjustment of City Manager James Maxinoff. 2, to direct staff to implement the salary adjustment. That's it.
Motion by Ham. Second, I need a second. Second by Brown, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
I'd like to thank the city manager for his performance during an exceptionally challenging year.
Okay. Oral Communications Part 2, I don't have any cards.
Okay.
City Manager? City Attorney?
Nothing more tonight, thank you.
Establishment of council meeting schedule and joint meetings for 2018. I know it's early. The main thing that you need to decide today are the whether you're going to let the registrar of voters use the council chambers as a polling place for the June 5th and November 6th elections, because they start now, and we're a hub, because in addition to being a polling place, all the ballots from South Orange County are gathered. So since I was coming to you with that, I thought we might as well, at least the ones that you're comfortable with, go ahead and do the schedule, because we will be getting out the 2018 calendar quite soon.
I can do Monday, June 4th instead of Tuesday, June 5th.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute.
That's a Monday?
Oh, they need set up?
They need to set up.
Yeah,
Oh.
so the day before the elections are not good.
Okay. And I can do that Thursday, the 7th.
7th, let me take a look. That works.
Okay.
Works for me.
Okay. So the next one is the November election.
November, what is it?
The election is November 6th. So November.
How about November 8th?
November 8th, Thursday.
Oh, shoot. What's the 7th? Can we do the 7th? Does that work for anybody?
Well, that's the planning commission.
Oh.
There's
Then we
1,
hit
2,
Veterans
3.
Day.
How about
There's
November
4
1st?
November 1st.
If you
Like that.
skipped the
Yeah.
first week and did the second week and the last week, we would have 2 council meetings. But that's a lot of moving around.
I like the November 1st.
Yeah, November, it's Thanksgiving month, too.
Looks like
so-
that's marked for planning commission.
Thursday,
Odd.
November 1st? Well, they can change
Maybe
theirs.
because I don't want to meet on Halloween.
Oh.
So the 7th is available?
The 7th is the
Planning commission.
planning commission.
They have both days?
And both them.
Yeah,
I'm
how did they
surprised
have
we
both?
can bump them.
Yeah.
You can.
Let's bump them. They'll probably have lack of an agenda
The 7th?
in November anyway.
Perfect. I'm good with that.
Okay, so
Oh, on the 7th, bump them?
November 7th.
Yeah, we're
let's
gonna
bump
do-
them on November 1st, because, some people here are going to be running for reelection. They might be very tired on the 7th.
Pretty sure it'll just be a big grand and standing event. Why don't we do it on the 7th when everyone is super real? And
Okay, fine. Next.
7th would be great.
Okay,
Tell planning commission to have it on Thursday.
okay. All right.
Sure, you'll be fresh. Yeah.
And then, do you want to have, typically you've had one joint meeting each year. This
Yes.
year's was in May.
Great.
And,
So about that joint meeting, I was thinking about that format. I don't know if there's a way to juice that up a little bit. What happens is every year we arrive, council member sits at each table. The dinner's great, we have a fun time, and then each one does a report, and then it just kind of stagnates a little bit. I wonder if there's a way that we could either do like a rotation where we'd have a chance to kind of meet somebody new, mix up the committees, or maybe there's a different way of doing it so that everyone has a chance to meet new people, so the council members have a chance to meet multiple committees, or maybe more of a like hors d'oeuvres and talking as opposed to a more of a formal dining event.
Something like musical chairs? You want to set
Well,
up?
like dating. One of
Wow.
those, yeah.
Why not just social hour?
Just like
Yeah.
I think a social hour with really good hors d'oeuvres and appetizers and,
Yeah.
and drinks and just something that's a little bit more sociable that allows you to move more, to chat with more people. Maybe each planning commission could have a different way of approaching it. I'm just curious about different ways of doing it so that it's not
So formal?
so formal. Just have the opportunity to chat with more people.
I think Councilmember Brown has just volunteered to help organize and put together the
I
concepts.
don't think I said that.
For that.
I
I
think
really
if-
appreciate you stepping up for that.
who'd be really good at this is Veronica. She's really good at.
Veronica would be great.
Yeah.
I
coming
think
up
we
with-
could eliminate
Let me
the
delegate this to
presentation.
Veronica.
I think there needs to be, I think there's a way of controlling the presentations a little bit more, like a PowerPoint, less than 2
More
minutes.
energy, yeah.
More dense, a little more energetic.
6 slides or less.
Yeah.
more summary and less, you know.
Yeah.
So we should
Okay,
give
what
more
day are we doing
direction
it?
of what we'd like it to be.
Yeah.
Like what you just said.
What day?
Would be good.
Yeah.
No
so-
dinner
So-
at all?
Right,
I think
no
we'll
dinner.
just
Social?
Serious
Or
hors
longer
d'oeuvres.
social and then dinner? What?
Yeah.
No, longer social and then we.
Well, it's all one mix. When you got all
Yeah.
that food out there and you got
Yeah, people can
drinks,
just eat, they please.
you know, have
Yeah.
like a little bit more bar time there maybe, or some drinks, and then.
There isn't a bar.
There's a
by the
bar.
way.
There's soda.
It's by your own. It's
But if we're not doing a
sponsored.
dinner, we'll have more money for people to maybe get
Well,
casual, so.
Today, well, so what day do you want to do that? You want to do it
Yeah,
on
let's pick a
Thursday,
date.
May 10th, or Thursday, May 17th?
My Thursdays
Are bad?
I'm on the wrong. I went back a year. Whoops.
Pick a date and then I'll chat with Veronica about some different ideas.
Oh, how about,
What were your choices? Throw your choices out again.
Maybe the 24th, because that's not a count. It's 10th or the 24th. Okay, forget it. 10th, May 10th. Thursday, May 10th.
Which is probably around where it was last year.
That works.
Okay.
You know, usually, okay,
Oh, Joanne doesn't like it.
well,
No,
no,
Joanne's frowning.
it's just that I don't know if the golf course is free. I did check, because in the past, you've always had it when there's 5 Tuesdays.
Yeah, we'll do it at Ole Hanson Beach Club. That'll change it up.
Boom.
Yeah.
It would.
I like it.
Yeah.
Look at Tim and Lori working together.
We
Or we
started
could
it.
do it at the Vista Hermosa Sports Park.
I like the beach.
Beach
Yeah.
Park was a better idea.
Okay, yeah, but, yeah.
A spot on there.
I was at the park in that.
Beach club would be cool.
Beach club.
I-
This is like a
So you
banner
still
night
need
for
to-
Lori here. She's doing a bike trail from the high school down to the beach, the Lake Hanson Beach Club. I love it.
Yeah, oh no, we got, yeah.
Okay, so May 10th, right?
And then I'll
May
work
10th
with
it is.
Veronica on how to juice it up a little bit, maybe get a
Okay.
little energy.
And then which summer meetings are we going to go without?
Well, before we get to summer meetings, let me back it up to January. We usually, the first meeting in January is the 6th. The last couple times, staff has had time off, and so you don't have an opportunity to actually get a hold of anybody. And the calendar is usually light, and so we canceled it last year. I'm recommending we cancel it again this year.
Say that again. What?
First meeting in January.
It's January 2nd, yeah, cancel it.
I would be in agreement.
January 1st, 2019.
No, 18, he's talking
They are-
20.
That's already canceled.
Oh,
Unless you
cancel
want
it?
to bring that back. Yeah, we
Okay.
did that
Oh,
last
that's
year.
cancel in perpetuity? Perfect. I like it. Okay. Well,
okay.
We're gonna
And so,
turn
and
it
also
over.
for 2019, okay, then what are we doing for the summer?
January 1, 2019, we're canceling. Okay.
okay.
So
Great.
for July and August, I would like to suggest that we try to maximize where we give council members enough time to be off, put them together would be nice.
So what are you
So the
proposing?
third-
And maybe add them to the 4th of July? No?
So the 3rd is a Tuesday. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So cancel the,
Well, it just gives us a little more time because we never take time off.
so you're saying cancel the 3rd and the 17th, and we do one on the 24th?
Yeah, we could catch up, because July, we did it this year, and I don't think staff had any concerns with it. I guess it depends on what's going on, but we could plan for that.
Call a special one, yeah.
Right, if
So
there's anything
only one meeting in
critical.
July, and it'll be on the 24th?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about August?
Well,
You
you
want-
can't add it to the first week of August, because we,
the 21st.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
So if we want to take 2 trips, we can try.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So
Each
we're
man
meeting on the
and-
24th, and we're meeting on the 21st. 24th of July, 21st in August. James?
Sounds great.
Okay.
I make a motion that we adjourn?
Steve would like to adjourn. Thank you.
I think Tim's got Councilmember Adams, sorry, before you do
I
that.
was just going to, I'm sorry, I didn't do this last meeting. We have a plaque that was presented to the city of San Clemente. It was a picture of the organization of the 1st Marine Division. It's a plaque that was awarded the USS Texas. This was a gift to the city of San Clemente from General Smith, I believe it was, on the base. And so I wanted to see if the city could hang this with the rest of our pictures over at the community center with grateful appreciation for their hospitality and for our partnership. It's just a wonderful thing to have. And we're grateful for the 2-4 for the 1st Marine Division, all the people that do it. And with that, I'd like to read the Declaration of Independence, just so that Lori could have, no, I'm just kidding.
Go to filibuster.
Anyway, I'd like to thank you so much for all those men and women who are in our services and all the good they do. Thank you.
Before we move on, there's something I wanted to bring up that Tim Brown and I have been working on for some time now, and it's very exciting. Is that the right way? Can you zoom in on that? Is that Cade in there? Cade, can you zoom in on this coin?
Yeah, we showed that
We
last
did? You guys
week.
did it already?
Yeah.
Well, I want to show it again because it's freaking cool, man. Look at that thing. So City of San Clemente seal right there. It says San Clemente. It says office. Does it say from the office? From the office of the mayor. And it's got our little Knights emblem there with the shield. It's great. And on the back side, it says the City of San Clemente, California. And it has our little diagram of the pier and the Lands Beach Club. They're awesome. Staff did a great job. I want to commend them on it. Tim, great job on collaborating with me on this. And hopefully you will. Laura Ferguson and Veronica both put these together. They did a fantastic job. And hopefully come to a citizen near you. Thanks.
And I would like to now adjourn in the name of a happy event, and that is welcoming my grandniece, Indigo Specht, who was born Friday the 13th. So at 8 pounds and 1 ounce. Hey, her brother was born at 10 pounds 4 ounces. Pardon? Specs are mom's name, actually, it's Indigo Eichten. That's Specht Eichten, actually. Don't ask me. Anyway, I have a motion, second.
Motion by Swartz, second by Doncheck. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Good night, everyone. See you later.